Today, we're diving into the profound and honestly pretty revolutionary philosophy of Vimala Thakar. We're going to get into her core ideas of being and becoming. And these aren't just abstract concepts. She argues they're these two ways of experiencing life that basically define everything for us, from our own inner peace all the way to global conflict. Our guide for this little journey is Thakar's powerful collection of talks, also called Being and Becoming. So what we're going to do is pull directly from her words, because her perspective really challenges some of the most basic things we assume about, well, how to live, how to learn, and maybe most importantly, how to actually be free. So let's just start with a question that gets right to the heart of all this. What if life isn't actually a problem that you need to solve? What if it's more of a mystery to be lived? I mean, think about it. Tucker suggests that maybe, just maybe, our constant need to analyze and control everything, well, that's the very thing that's making us suffer. We've been taught to treat life like a math problem, when really it's this huge, magnificent, and kind of unknowable mystery. So, to help us get our heads around this, she gives us this central framework. You can think of it like a tale of two worlds. And the kicker is, these are two totally different realities that we are all living in at the same time, most of us, without even knowing it. And this, right here, this lays out the fundamental conflict. See, on one hand, you've got cosmic life. This is the natural, organic reality we're all born into. Thakar calls this being. But then on the other hand, there's the man-made world, right? The world of concepts and rules and all our identities. She calls that becoming. And her whole point is that the tension, the clash between these two worlds, that's where all our problems, both inside and out, really come from. Okay, so let's dig into that first one. This cosmic life, this reality she calls being. What even is that? So Tucker calls being an organic wholeness. Now, this is important. It's not like a machine, a bunch of separate parts screwed together. No. It's more like a living body where every single cell is alive and totally connected to everything else. There are no separate pieces. It's all just limbs of one single living thing. She even calls it a creator-free creation, meaning it just is. It exists all on its own, without some separate maker putting it together. And this cosmic reality has some really fascinating qualities. For one, she calls it a structure-free isness. It's just pure existence. And get this, when it expresses itself, like as a tree or a planet or you, it doesn't lose any of its wholeness. It's still complete. And its movement isn't a straight line from A to B. It's circular. Things pop up out of the hole, and then eventually they merge right back in. And the really cool part? There's no repetition. It's not like a factory stamping out the same thing over and over. It's just constant, spontaneous creativity. And to really capture the feeling of this reality, Takari uses this beautiful metaphor. She says, life is a cathedral in which we dwell. So it's not something out there for us to dissect and study. It's this sacred, massive space that we're already inside of. We're living inside this mystery. Okay, so if being is this incredible cathedral we live in, what's the other world? Well, now let's explore what she calls the man-made maze of becoming. This is the world of society, culture, and identity that we build right on top of that cosmic reality. Thakar argues that from the second we're born, we're basically being conditioned. Right? We're taught to measure everything, to put everything in a box, to categorize it. And in doing that, we build this artificial self. Our identity as a student or a parent or whatever our job is, what country we're from. We're essentially taught to take that big mystery of life and shrink it down into a manageable problem that we think we can control. And she lays out this really clear, almost predictable path for how this happens. It all starts out innocently enough, right? Just naming things, identifying them. But that sense of this is a chair quickly becomes this is my chair. It turns into a desire to own and possess, and not just things, but also knowledge, status, even people. And once you're in that mindset, what's the next step? Well, you start comparing. My chair is better than your chair. And that's what sparks competition, having to assert yourself. And, well, you can see where it goes from there, aggression. So here's the real challenge, the central problem of our lives. We're living in both of these worlds at the exact same time. We are a part of that cosmic dance of being, but we also have to get by in the man-made maze of becoming. And that clash, that's what creates all the conflict. So Thakar asks this really vital question. She asks, can we move through the man-made world without it mutilating, damaging, or affecting the quality of our being. I mean, think about that. Is it possible to go through society, go to school, have a career, have relationships, without letting all that stuff crush our inner wholeness, our connection to that feeling of being? And amazingly, her answer is yes. It is possible. And she offers what she calls the master key, a totally revolutionary way to live in this modern world without giving up our inner freedom.
Okay, so here are the keys she gives us. You can function in your job or your role in the family without building up this rigid psychological identity as the expert or the owner. You can learn things because you need to, but you don't have to possess that knowledge as part of your ego. We can actually shift our whole approach to learning. We can simplify what we think we need, both physically and psychologically. And the absolute foundation for all of this, the one thing that makes it all possible, never, ever compare yourself to anyone else.
So let's look a little closer at this idea, reception versus acquisition. Acquisition is basically what most of us learned in school, right? It's an effort. You memorize facts, you pile up knowledge, and that process creates a nowhere, which is really just another word for the ego. But reception, that's totally different. It's effortless. You just allow information to come in, and your whole being just sort of absorbs it. It assimilates the meaning, and it naturally becomes real wisdom, not just a bunch of facts stored in your head. So the big question is, how do we actually start living like this? And that brings us to what might be Thacker's most radical idea of all, about meditation and what freedom really is. See, for Thacker, most of what we think of as meditation, techniques, mantras, trying really hard to concentrate, that's just more mental gymnastics. It's just the mind trying to solve the problems of the mind, which actually keeps us stuck in that cycle of becoming. True meditation, she says, has absolutely nothing to do with any kind of thought or mental effort. So what is it then? She calls it reaction-free attention. And it's really simple but not easy. It's just observing, watching the movement of your own mind, your thoughts, your feelings, your actions as you go about your day. But here's the key. You do it without judging any of it, without comparing it, and most importantly, without identifying with it. You just watch it go by. And it's in that moment of not grabbing on, of not identifying, that the chains of all our past conditioning finally start to break. And this right here, this is maybe her most powerful point. We tend to think that freedom is the reward we get at the end of some long, difficult spiritual journey. She says no, that's backwards. Freedom is the necessary starting point. You have to start from a place of freedom to even be able to observe yourself clearly. Freedom isn't the destination, it's the very first step on the path. And when you start to approach life like this, something really profound starts to shift. Every single moment, every conversation you have, every challenge you face, it's no longer a problem you have to solve or an experience you need to collect for your ego. Your whole life just transforms. It becomes this one continuous, totally effortless process of learning. So we'll end by turning her big question back to you. Can you just start to watch the movements of your own life without reacting, without judging? What do you think you might discover if you do? What might you find in that quiet, spacious observation? Because what Thakar suggests is that the answer you'll find is the very freedom you've been looking for this whole time.